All right, welcome back. Now it's time for us to get into the news review segment. And today on the news review segment, we'll be looking at the 2025 budget. The finance minister engages Makola traders ahead of presentation. We also have bilateral relations. President Mahama engages Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And we also have the NSS payroll fraud. Gifty Oware Mensah detained by NIB. So we'll get into these stories as the show progresses. My guests are here, they're seated. I will introduce them to you shortly. Just don't forget that the show is interactive, the segment is interactive. We do want to hear from you, especially when we're going through the different topics. If you have any thoughts you want to share with us, kindly feel free to do so with the WhatsApp number 0204-447-033. That's our WhatsApp line. If you happen to be watching on our social media streams, YouTube, Facebook, kindly use the hashtag Breakfast Daily together with your comments, and we will catch it and read it out here. I've been joined in the studio this morning by Ibrahim Ejay. He's the former Assistant Secretary of the former President, as well as Comrade Elikem Kotoko, the National Deputy Organizer of the NDC. Gentlemen, you're both welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. Very well, thank you so much.
Yeah?
Good. Good morning.
Yeah, morning.
Yes.
How's the weekend?
Yes, nothing extravagant to report. But
okay.
It was well.
It went well.
Nice weekend. Relaxing.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
When it's relaxing, I'm
good.
I'm good. The time will come when it's, there's not enough hours in the day. It's a nice relaxing weekend with my daughters and my wife. So
super.
Yeah.
Super. What about you?
Yeah, as usual, a few programs to attend, funerals here and there. So I think the Volta region occupied me over the weekend.
Okay.
I go back yesterday night, and as usual, here we are again. The week has begun.
So hard and fast, man. It's already the 10th of March.
Yeah.
1/3 of March is gone.
So we are preparing to almost get done with the first quarter.
Very soon. Anyway, so we'll get right into it. We have quite a number of stories to go through. The finance minister will be, we're expecting him tomorrow to give us the budget reading as the constitutional mandate, so we'll be expecting that. But he's engaged Makola traders ahead of the presentation. Now, there's a story here on the front page of the Herald newspaper, and I'll take you right into it. So we have that story. Let me just quickly locate it for you. Good. So it's actually on page 7 of the Herald newspaper, and the finance minister engages Makola traders. Now, the minister for finance, Dr. Kasel Atoforsen, engaged with market women, including headquarters commonly known as Kayeye, and other traders at Makola on Saturday, March the 8th, 2025, to discuss their concerns and expectations ahead of the 2025 budget presentation scheduled for Tuesday, March 11th. Now, describing the interaction as a privilege, Dr. Forsen acknowledged the vital role these traders play in sustaining Ghana's economy. Taking to Facebook, he wrote, "Friends, we just concluded an insightful engagement with market women, Kayaye, and others at Makola Market. It was a privilege to interact with these hard-working Ghanaians who break their backs daily to support our economy. Their expectations ahead of #Budget 2025 will help shape our shared future." And the story goes on. Now, let me just come quickly to Elikem, and then we'll get into the conversation. So the story starts by saying the minister engages the market women and others, to discuss their concerns and expectations ahead of the budget presentation. But as it goes on, it says their expectations ahead of the budget 2025 will help shape our shared future. Some people are saying that, but the budget has already been written and been presented to ahead of the parliamentary presentation. So what difference does it make anyway?
Thank you so much. Permit me to wish brother James Gidiglo a belated happy birthday, and my daughter Annabelle Goldlyn, also a happy birthday. Well, there will always be varying opinions on matters of this nature that is of grave importance to many. There are those who also want to play some kind of games around these issues. The finance minister walking through Makola may not signify anything significant to somebody, but to many, it is symbolic enough that a sector minister who, in preparation to present the budget on behalf of the president, feels the need to get down to the common, to get down to the market women. Like read in the news, the people who break their back to put this economy on track. And it is not necessarily to mean that he wants to take information from them, lift it from there, and put into the budget.
Okay.
In fact, let me state on record that before the budget preparation was done, a lot of these things were already carried out. There were a lot of persons sent out on missions. There were institutions that were contacted. There were CSOs that made inputs and all of that, including the market women as well.
Okay.
Many of them know the input they have made. Okay. In fact, some of them made their inputs as far back as December 7th, 2024.
I see.
It is what informed the decision on why they changed even government. Because there's been a few rancors here and there, demonstrations and all of that. And what have they all said? One thing, we expect reforms. We want some of the taxes to be relooked at. We want a further consideration of our plight, amongst other things. And so Dr. Atuforsen going there, like you read, was to do two things. To get to know the concerns of the market women and also hear for himself what their expectations are. And that would help him also measure not only what has already been presented, but even how he will present it. He would have probably even chosen a particular word to use in his submission. But now, engaging the people, he may have informed himself now that I don't think I need to use this word. I think I would have to use or make my statement in this manner. Okay. He may even be making his statement and make references to some of the people that he interacted with. And I'm sure some would also be happy to know, oh, indeed he remembered our conversation when he came around. So I have also come across some people saying, oh, like you asked, that it's been done already, so what? It is equally also good. It tells of a leader or leadership that comes down to the people to want to hear their concerns. Listening to people and their concerns is one major way towards achieving the problems that we all encounter. And so I am very impressed with what's been happening so far. I mean, it is very instructive and very joyous to tell you that, my brother, in almost 2 years, Treasury bill rates has actually dropped by 20%. This is a significant achievement, but it is still early days. We are hopeful that things will begin to take this steady progress so that the Ghanaian who voted for change, who believe that President Mahama's comeback would reset this economy and put this country on the right trajectory, would rejoice over the gains that we'll be chalking as a country. Mind you, when this country gets better, it doesn't get better for only the NDC person. It doesn't get better for only President Mahama or myself, but for all of us, because the reforms we seek are reforms that are to benefit collectively all of us, including even foreigners who are residing here. And so long as you are a Ghanaian, you should be proud when we are making chalking such hallmarks. And so I look forward to a successful budget presentation tomorrow that would actually announce reforms and also some other incentives, and further to strengthen the government policy on the message that we carry to the people on December 7th, for which they gave us that overwhelming victory, which is unheard of in this country.
Before I go to Ibrahim, I just wanted to just give us a quick comment on a lot of people are expecting, because we've also heard that certain taxes will be repealed and so on and so forth. What's the plan to shore up revenue if we are dropping so many taxes?
To be frank with you, every tax expert you see today and speak to will tell you the number one approach to making sure that we shore up our taxes, our revenue, is not by imposing new taxes, but rather by making sure that we seal all the loopholes that have created leeways for people to maneuver to either evade tax or not pay tax at all. And it is a reason why we have said consistently that the very nuisance taxes such as the e-levy and many others that we spoke about needs to be scrapped. We only need to sit up and make sure that, look, the institution mandated to collect taxes that is supposed to rake in the revenue, that's what it's supposed to do and do it so well. The institutions that are established that are supposed to pay tax also make sure that they own up to their obligations and do it right. Those who are deliberately defaulting or evading, etc., must be dealt with, you can call it with iron fist, in order to serve as a deterrent to others. So there are too many loopholes, too many tax reliefs or waivers that have actually crippled us as a nation. And at times like these, we need to bite the bullet. We need to take the bull by the horn and be very deliberate in the actions we want to take to ensure that we rake in more revenue to build a better Ghana for ourselves.
All right. Ibrahim.
Thank you. Good morning once again, Elikan and David. I like the question you posed. What is the purpose of doing this engagement when you've already written your budget? It's like putting the cart before the horse. It's typical NDC. And I'm going to, it's typical NDC. Let's remember that the finance minister was at the helm of affairs when they exited in 2016. Was he not? He was deputy. What did they leave us with? They left us with an industry growth of 3.31%. That's how you grow your economy. These are the architects who are now back in power. Cedi depreciation was 73%, 73.8% under them. Gross international reserves, how much we have to weather shocks when there's an exchange rate, the money you have in the bank, so to speak, 5.78 billion. And GDP growth was 3.9%. Now, for those who say, Brian, what are these figures? Figures, I can't chop figures. But when your child is going to school, David, he has history, maths, English, biology, computer science, and what have you, coding, AI. You grade your child to get an overview of how well he or she is doing in class. So when we give the figures, it's to give us a better idea, because we, the politicians, we want to talk nicely, convince, persuade, cover our faults. It's the nature of things that we want to be our own cheerleaders. But the facts can expose the reality. So while they left us with an industry growth of 3.31%, we left them in just this 2024 with a growth of 4.12%. Cedi depreciation, we had a tough time under MPP, no doubt about it. But again, while they had 73.8% depreciation, we had 71.4%, much better. The gross international reserves I mentioned earlier, 5.78 billion, Ghana cedis. Now we have 7.6, an increase.
Yeah.
And the GDP growth that they gave, 3.9, that's how much your economy has grown over the period. 3.9%, David. Just the last quarter of 2024, we left 7.2%. Why am I giving these figures? Just so that we can have a better understanding of how the economy is running. And so what I would expect from Honorable Atulfosun, in terms of the economy, the budget that he's going to read, is ways in which you are going to add value, create that economic space and activity. Provide the reliefs. I think Ghanaians need that. I think it's important to understand that, I remember 2016, we came in on a promise and we delivered, and to a large extent, on reducing nuisance taxes. Remember, there was a taxes on sanitary pads, cutlasses, under then President John Dramani Mahama. And we reduced a lot of that. And then, of course, global economics come and shake you into reality. And then we too did certain taxes, which I'm hoping the NDC government will now remove. Number one being the e-levy, and then also the COVID-19 levy as well. When you do that, you create that economic activity, that space for the economy to breathe and then also to grow. And I have to be optimistic. As I mentioned, you cannot wish this government bad. We are in the same soup. Our job is to, criticize, cajole where necessary, and put their feet to the fire so that certain ideas that we give, they can also accommodate those ideas amongst their own agenda or strategies to grow the economy. You cannot do a tax and spend economy. How do you grow the economy? And I think that needs to be the focus. So, and I agree with Elikem. It's not about taxing more. Yes, you need to, what do you call it, close those loopholes. That's one part of it. But it's not just about closing loopholes. Are we growing enough that closing will remedy it? I don't believe so. What we need to do is to create activity and then tax that activity. Remember last time on this same program, I said that we're not utilizing our tourism industry very well.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I remember.
We have, within the SHS and JHS combined, we have 15,100 and something schools, public schools.
Yeah.
15,000, JHS and SHS. If we have as part of our curricula that every child will visit important tourist places as part of your curricula.
Yeah.
It's not just sightseeing. You're learning about your country. Imagine you have 2 million, and that's the population of our SHS and JHS. 2 million students on an annual basis traveling. Okay? And you, let me be direct here. There has to be a fee paid. You can't go, government can't take this on its head. But if, for argument's sake, each trip is 80 Ghana cedis, where am I getting that from? I mean, the amount of 80 cedis is for transportation, and how much that child will spend at, the Mole National Park. Do you get me? Or they go to Afajato and mountain.
Crocodile Point.
Yeah. You now create, let's do 80 cities per child times 2 million. That's 160 million cities that enter our local economies. And then what you do as a government, you tax that activity. So now you have 160 million cities every year, can be more, whereby you're taxing that activity, growing our tourism space at the same time.
Yeah.
And by doing so, this is a strategy you do across board. Elikem has mentioned one, closing loopholes. I'm giving you more decisive areas in which to grow the economy. And I'm expecting that we'll hear something good in tomorrow's budget reading. And the good is whereby you help to unleash confidence in the economy. And I think removing the e-levy will be one of those things. It beggars my mind why MPP even did that. And I'll explain to you why I say that. If you're a telco, and we as a government need to generate resources, David, the best thing to do is to tax you, the telco. Say, we are increasing your tax by 5%, 10%.
Yeah.
And then you don't put that burden.
As opposed to taxing
the individual. But, it is what it is. So I'm hoping that the NDC will make good on their promise, and we'll see that captured in the budget tomorrow, plus other interventions that will give strong impetus to industry and agriculture to actually breathe, and not be shackled down by taxes, and certain economic impediments to our growth. And this is what I'm looking for in tomorrow's budget. And because when you do that, when industry can breathe, it trickles down to the consumer. If you can give agriculture enough assistance, inputs, subsidies where necessary, in terms of fertilizers and what have you, when the cost of production can be more affordable for the farmer, and cost of production can be more affordable for the industry, then you'll see that the outputs, that is the industry outputs, the agricultural outputs, and the mechanization of our industry, the industrialization of our economy, you'll see that you have cheaper goods, more competitive, so that boosts exports as well, and also encourages domestic consumption as well. I'm hoping we'll see some of these things in tomorrow's budget.
Now, just a quick comment from you on the issue of wastage. I spoke with Elikem about that earlier. He made a comment about that, but I just wanted to find out from you. I mean, one of the ways that anybody, if you want to save, if you want to grow your money, is plug the wastage, right? What seems to be the challenge, and what are some of the things that government really should be looking at doing in terms of, I mean, I know that we've seen things like, okay, instead of spending supposedly 20 million on Independence Day, we end up spending like 1 million cedis and so on. So we're cutting costs here and there, but real wastage is still going on in the system. How does government jump on top of this? Because once you plug the hole, whatever is coming in stays in, and we suddenly see a lot more income.
In terms of plugging the hole, in terms of the wastage that you mentioned, it has to be multifaceted. We have GIFMIS already there, Ghana Integrity Financial Information Management System. What that does, that's an architecture that looks at every financial transaction that government does. Let me break it down as easily as I can. Let's say your local assembly, or like a district assembly or municipal assembly, MCEDC. And you've been given a budget to spend on doing a road, property, whatever it is, you've been given government money to spend. That expenditure, that transaction has to be entered into the computer systems which are captured by GIFMIS. So even though we're in a crowd, we can see what's happening at Paga. Okay. So that if there is expenditure beyond what is being given, then we can quickly, it flags up that, hold on, we received this money, but this has not come in. Or this money has been taken out, and there's no attachment, there's no legitimate reason why, for example, you were to purchase cement for a product. The money's gone out, but we don't see the cement coming in. You know, GIFMIS helps to police transactions. But at the end of the day, it's human beings that
are
do
running
that.
the systems.
And I know we're going to discuss it very shortly, the NSS. Again, you have systems in place, but if there are individuals who are bent on somehow circumventing and abusing the process, so how do you plug it? The systems are there to plug it, but it's the deterrence to make sure that we do that comprehensively. And again, now we have artificial intelligence tools that can sit on any government transaction database and determine where there is some kind of thievery, malfeasance, misappropriation, because it can, across the value chain of that transaction, artificial intelligence sitting on that transaction can help government monitor what is happening. Because you know, like when you have project management, I need to have my cement here on this day, paid on that day, iron rods arrive on this day, and then I pay the iron rod supply on this day. You know, artificial intelligence can tell you that this transaction, there is a problem. Somebody has not supplied, but somebody has taken the money. Those are the things. But then when it comes down to tax, and I think Alakam was bang on the money, he talked about how people avoid tax. One way we can do that is to capture a lot of the things within a government portal. Let me be very brief. I don't want to talk too much. You know that a lot of people rent property. Am I right? How much of that rental, because it's taxable, does government collect? I would argue zero. I can rent property from Elicum now. I can go to Volta, I like the 2-bedroom, give him the money. Government does not see that transaction at all. So we need a law. I'm giving an example here. How to avoid that. On rent, you make it a law that any rent payment has to go through a government portal. Do you get me? By law. So, for example, I can't pay my roadworthy next door at a cocoa seller. I have to go where? DVLA and pay my road. So the government portal is a momo that is between myself and Elicum. Because once he's the landlord, he has to register that I'm renting my property. Government then will assign him a momo number. I then have to pay, not cash, but through his momo. Now, when I pay him directly, government can take the 10% tax directly. So if we have 5 or 10 million people renting, and the law says you have to have a momo account, Because if you rent property without this Momo account, you are evading the law, you are transgressing the law, and we can put you into to court. Let me not go to Insawam. So these are some of the strategies where we can capture economic activity that is taxable, but we are not failing to do, but not having that idea to say capture so much more of private transactions within the public space. So this is what I would do as government. In order just to, and I'm using this one example, David, rent between myself and Elikem that government does not see, and Elikem has to pay tax on it. How? And you can't force him, but when you make it the law, Elikem will abide by the law, is a law-abiding citizen. I will abide by the law. And the incentive is this, and I'll end in just 10 more seconds. When you make sure that how do you call someone who's renting? The tenant. The tenant, thank you. We can give an incentive to the tenant to make sure there's no kululu between me and Elikem. Government says to the tenant, all of where your rent is captured in this Momo account, we will make sure that you are given legal assistance should it happen that your landlord wants to evict you. Do you get me?
All tenants will be happy.
All tenants. You know, sometimes you wake up and your landlord says, "Shisha, coffee." You know, landlords can abuse that tenancy.
I have relatives coming.
Good. So to make sure that I don't do kululu with Elikem, give me the tenant the incentive that once your rent is captured in that Momo account, government by right will give you legal assistance should the need come to do that. And also for the landlord, we will also give you by way of an incentive, every year or two, government will paint your house for you. I'm giving an example. Where's that money coming from to paint Elikem's house? I help the maintenance. He's a landlord. That 10% that we tax, let's take 1% per. Remember, the 10 million people renting. Take 1%, and that's an incentive for him. That the money we are taxing, we're going to give it back to you in some maintenance that you can legitimately apply for. Maybe fixing your roof. So you get money back for your thing.
Tax.
These are some of the things we can do to help capture those who are evading tax.
Interesting. Any quick comments before we go?
I think I've listened to Ibrahim very well. I wish he had not gone into the figures, though. I mean, in the end, what do we see today? The Ghanaian watching you and myself today does not understand why all those figures translated into what is known as junk status by IMF rating. And that is where you put us. That is why I'm saying that we need reforms. The reforms is not necessarily churning out figures here and there. We are very much aware of the likes of Ken Ofreta, who obviously was just manufacturing figures, throwing at us to the Ghanaian public. In the end, where has it resulted to? And so it is a bit worrying. I shudder to say that if care is not taken, the MPP is becoming the next pandemic that we need to deal with as a government moving forward. Because we don't forget, I mean, it's just the first quarter we are in. It's a resounding 57% of Ghanaian electorates who demonstrated that they had no confidence in President Akufo-Addo's conduct of leadership and therefore could not allow an extension through Alhaji Baumia. And so I would say that calm down. You leave the figures out now. Give yourself some time.
We are very calm.
In due course, you will see where the steady progress this country will be making for the good of you, myself, David, and those watching us.
All right. The reason, it's not a rebuttal. I gave the figures because the same people at Ministry of Finance are at the helm of affairs. And it's important for Ghanaians. I'm hoping it does better. And I think I want to emphasize that point, Elikem. But I gave the figures so that we have a track record. That this is what you left us. It's not like it was somebody else. If Setekbe was there, but Setekbe is not there. Do you get me? He, Ato Forsen, Honorable, was at the helm of affairs. I'm giving him the figures so he can reflect and say, inshallah, let me do better.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we're back, there's more conversations right here on the News Review segment of Breakfast Daily.